How's it going, toe critters? Yeah, so I was thinking of, I know with my other videos that I've done so far, I've been kind of long-winded, and you know, it takes what do you call it? It takes some time to sit and watch them. So I'm also gonna try to intersperse some shorter bits and like observations, or just little things that I think about still all these years later. One thing I think that they should do at OCS is the first week they need to just devote to the difference between officers and enlisted men, because I don't think that they really just never really sunk into them that we're completely different species, and then they need to spend a little time on the laws, or the law of unintended consequences. And I'll just talk about a couple instances to illustrate what I'm talking about here. And I'm thinking that all of you guys listening probably have your the light bulbs will go off on a couple things that the officers did when we were in. That was like, that very didn't they really didn't think it through. First thing was, every time we were deployed, when we were on ship, and we were coming into a Liberty port, they did a little briefing beforehand, like a day before we pulled into port. They'd have a little briefing, and they'd call us together in small groups, and the officers would tell us what to expect about the port, and when they call the briefing, the guys who had been on floats and deployments before would talk to the new guys and say, bring a notebook and pencil. And the new guys would be like, what are they going to say that's going to be so important? We never use a notebook for any other briefing. It's like, just trust us on that. So anyway, you get into the briefing room, and they sit down and they talk to us about what to expect, and then they go into detail. They'd start telling us, okay, well, they want us to stay away from this area, this street here, Via Dolorosa or whatever. There's a lot of prostitution activity there, and stay out of this bar because there's been a lot of cocaine dealing going on there, and everybody be writing down the notes and stuff. It's like, wait, that bar is that what that one? That bar has the cocaine dealers or the prostitutes? They were writing it down, and this, it never failed. Every time we went into port, they sit us down and tell us exactly where not to go. But right before I got out, well, about, I don't know, 6 months to a year before I got out, was when the Marine Corps and the military in general switched its policy on drugs. That was when they started doing the random drug testing and no tolerance. If you got caught for any kind of drugs, automatically you were discharged. Either, I don't know if it was a bad conduct or a general discharge or whatever. But up until that point, you could get busted for pot. There were a couple guys in tows, and I know you guys can probably name pull up a couple names, guys that went from E5s all the way down to E1, one rank at a time, just because they kept getting busted. And actually, I think there was one guy in tow who he had gotten up to E5 and they'd gotten busted all the way down to E1 and then worked his way back up to corporal before he got discharged. That's 5 or 9 ranks in 4 years. That's pretty freaking amazing. So so they started the drug testing, and I think they started it while I was on my last float, and when we came back was when they did a briefing. What they did was they pull us all together. Everybody had this little briefing about the whole change of the drug policy, and they even had handouts, and they gave us handouts, and the handouts told us everything that they were testing for, and then the handouts also told us how long each drug that they were testing for stayed in your system. So you could go right down the list, say, oh, let's see, they're testing for cocaine, and it stays in your system for 72 hours. Well, of course, everybody was doing the math really quick. It's like, oh, well, I got a 96 coming up. I can do all the cocaine that I want, the first night, as long as I switch to just drinking for the last 3 days, and then but they also, looking down the list, is like there's this all these things were listed. It's like everybody noticed hallucinogens were not on the list at all. They were not testing for any kind of hallucinogens. I think partly because at that point to test for any hallucinogens, the test was really expensive, because hallucinogens work on such small amounts that and they also don't stay in your system long. They don't have any of the metabolites or whatever that stay in your system, whereas like pot does. So we were looking. It's like, okay, well, pot stays in your system for 30 days. Immediately we thought, well, we're not smoking any more pot or hash. But it's like, but they're not testing for LSD or mescaline or psilocybin. They're not testing for any of that. So what they did was they got everybody to quit smoking pot, and everybody started doing a lot more hallucinogens. And so yeah, that's like I said, they really didn't think that through, especially when they started running up the handouts and stuff. And then then there was another thing that came up when I came back from my last med float. By that point, I'd gotten in trouble a few times, and that's why I kept going on the med float, because just get out of town when things are kind of hot. Well, after we got back from our last med float, I started having these like new guys come up to me and say, "Hey, are you stack?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm stack." He says, "Can I go out to town to the Court Street with you? One of these nights?" It's like, "Sure." But I mean, it was like everybody started coming up and asking me if they could go out to Court Street with me. It's like, and I didn't know why. But I actually one of the guys, I said, how come you want to go out with Court Street with me? And he says, well, when I got to the company, when I went in for the welcome to the company talk from the XO, he told us to stay away from Court Street, and definitely not to go out to Court Street with you. It's like, oh, okay. So yeah, and actually well, I'll get to some of the other details lately. So yeah, like I said, there's a lot of the military does a lot of things that they really don't think about, and like I said, when you try to talk to people about what you're thinking, and that's where the problem is, because these officers were not into the whole drug culture, even not even the drinking as much as the 18 to 22-year-old enlisted guys. So they thought if they told us to stay away from an area, well, that was it, because they told us to stay away from there. Anyway, that's my thought for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm sure you've got some more instances of situations like that. So let's hear about them. So anyway, take it easy, and we'll talk to you later on, man. Take it easy.